Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nation Watch for today, Sunday, 25th May 2025. Tomorrow will be Guyana's 59th independence anniversary. Guyana is growing. Guyana is growing. Today, we start on a bit of a sad note as we pay tribute to and offer condolences to the family, the relatives, friends, and political colleagues of Valerie Garrido, former minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs between 2015 and 2020, who died this morning. We are saddened by her passing. The indigenous community of Guyana is poorer for her passing, and we salute her for the work that she has done across Guyana's landscape. May her soul rest in peace. Condolences come from the leader, executive, and members of the People's National Congress Reform. Today, the Republic of Venezuela is supposedly holding what they purport to be, what they purport to call election for a governor and representatives of Essequibo. We will deal with that a little bit later on. Tomorrow is our independence anniversary, and the People's National Congress Reform has issued a statement earlier than usual. I should like to share the statement with you. PNCR Independence Day Message 2025 to the people of Guyana. Fellow Guyanese, on this momentous occasion of our 59th independence anniversary, we come together as a nation to celebrate our hard-won sovereignty and autonomy. Today, we honor the sacrifices of those who fought tirelessly and heroically for our freedom. Kofi, Atta, Damon, Burnham, Jagan, to name a few, and reaffirm our unwavering commitment to continue their work in building a strong, just, equitable, and prosperous Guyana for all its citizens. We reflect on our journey this year. As we reflect on our journey this year, we stand firmly in solidarity with the brave of the Guyana Defense Force, the residents of Essequibo, and indeed all Guyanese as we stand up for our country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. We echo the sentiments expressed by our party leader, the Honorable Aubrey Compton Norton, MP, in Parliament on May 23, 2025, in reaffirming the finality of the 1899 Arbitral Award and condemning the antics and acts of aggression by Venezuela against our peaceful nation. Essequibo belongs to Guyana, and the PNCR stands ready to defend our land and the Guyanese people against any form of aggression or intimidation. Furthermore, on this independence anniversary, we must mention the other pressing national issues that confront us, particularly the mismanagement, corruption, and incompetence, and the acts of political domination and oppression that deny Guyanese a comfortable life under the current PPP regime. Such actions undermine the country's democracy, social cohesion, ethnic harmony, and political stability. As the opposition, we will continue to defend the rights, freedoms, and entitlements of the Guyanese people. We can and must rescue this nation. Those who fought for independence demand no less from all Guyanese. Today, as we commemorate our independence, let us renew our commitment to building a nation that can resolutely and collectively defend its territory, that can entrench and enhance the principles of good governance, that can uphold the rights and dignities of each citizen, that can achieve national unity, and that can guarantee the happiness and shared prosperity to all Guyanese. Happy Independence Day, Guyana. Long live our sovereignty. Long live our unity. Message from the People's National Congress Reform on the occasion of Guyana's 59th independence anniversary, which we will be celebrating tomorrow. We will deal with the other issues regarding the matter of the territorial controversy in a few minutes. Mabaruma has been in our sights for a while now as things continue to fall apart in that part of our country. Last evening at about 7 o'clock, a motor vehicle owned by the Guyana Police Force somehow ran off the road and crashed, I believe, into a building, causing some damage and some panic and some really harsh memories to a mother. This is in Mabaruma, the area generally referred to as the Rubber Walk. And about a year or so ago, there was an accident not far from here where the life of a young girl was snuffed out by a speeding motor car. The driver of that car, I understand, is before the courts. The matter is ongoing. And that little child was the daughter of someone I know very well who lives very close to where this accident occurred, and I understand operates a shop in the building that was destroyed by this motor vehicle. I empathize with Wendy and trust that she overcomes the trauma that this accident brought back to her yesterday evening. You will be able to see, I believe it's an officer by the name of Brown, I believe it is it? We have another image and we have a video which we'll share with you. That's the registration number of the motor vehicle, which was abandoned by its driver. This is a video where the fleeing driver of the vehicle was observed as he left the scene. We spoke about motor vehicle and road use in Mabaruma before on Nation Watch. Irresponsible driving, people driving without license for the particular classification of motor vehicles and the police not doing anything about it. Today, we lament an accident involving a police vehicle driven by a police rank. And then we go over to Hosororo, where this construction of buildings is taking place. The buildings, we understand, were designed to house a new secondary school in Hosororo. The building, as we learn from Sherrod Duncan, in the video you will soon see, is evidently abandoned with no sign of work, no sign of even a security presence, no sign of any equipment or any building material, unused, and altogether abandoned. Let's have a look at this video and listen to Sherrod as he walks us through what he observed.
Back to Region 1, folks, and we're at the new Hosororo Secondary School. It's a new school they're building here, but I should say it's a new school they've started. This school, I think, costs about $2 billion on paper, and they're saying this school is about 60% complete. Now, the project has been abandoned. There is nothing happening here. The project has been completely abandoned by the contractor. And we're just going to take a walk around and show you guys some of what we're seeing here. You got some walls, you got a roof, that's it. There's no construction equipment in sight, there's no personnel in sight, and from everything we're seeing here, this site has not been used in a little while. There's been nobody here for a little while. That's what the residents told us. That's what brought us here, that the new secondary school has been abandoned by the government, and the residents want to know, when is this building going to be finished? Now, these are places when the government bring the journalists to Region 1, they aren't going to come here. This is not going to be part of the showpiece. As a matter of fact, we spoke to the folks in Region 1, and they said that there is not a completed project here in the last 5 years. There is no project in all of Region 1 that the government can point to and say, look, we have started this and we have completed it. There aren't many projects that they have started here. Even this is one of them, about a handful of them. And residents want to know, when is this going to be completed? Now, this is the walls they're putting in here. It's prefab walls. This is sheetrock, I think they call it. But look what's happening here. All this now is at the mercies of the elements, because it's rain and shine hitting all of this. Complete, perhaps, misuse of taxpayers' money. This had to have been factored in when you're planning for this, when you're doing the scope of works and all of that, the length of time. And this has been a consistent, very, very consistent dereliction of duty almost, in terms of projects being stalled, projects not completed. Again, this is the Hosururu secondary school that they're building, the new one. Now, folks, as you know, Region 1 is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. Look at the backdrop. They're beautiful savannah the kids got to look at. But if you have a completed school, the children that inhabit this area, this region, they deserve a good school, good accommodations, nothing but the very best in this oil producing economy. Now, we're going to show you some other shots as we are on the ground here, and you will see this school here has been completely abandoned. Look what's happening. Look what's happening. Again, you don't see this in the campaign literature. This is not going to make a poster, right? This is not bright and shiny. But this is it, abandoned. There have been so many stalled projects, incomplete projects, way outnumbering perhaps what has been completed. But I guess you got to put a tick.
Way outnumbering completed projects are those projects which have been abandoned, incomplete, useless. I want to say to the listening and viewing audience that the hue and cry, the noise that is being made by the People's Progressive Party about the few buildings that they're constructing to house schools in an economy and at a time when this country is overflowing with money from oil resources that only the elite seem to be benefiting from, while the poor continue to struggle. They do not pay attention to training persons. They do not make any attempt to listen to the villages and communities, particularly in the hinterland region, when it comes to designing those buildings. You see the Hosururu building structure? It's flat. It has an almost flat V-roof, and it is obviously going to be, if it is ever completed, an oven in which the children will obviously suffer. But do you know that the People's National Congress in government, in 10 years, at a time when Guyana was, as Dr. David Hines puts it very nicely, when Guyana was transitioning from a plantation to a nation without oil resources, having inherited absolutely nothing from the colonial governance system, and out of pure political will and national pride and the desire for development, the People's National Congress built some schools in a very short time. I'll give you the schedule so that we cannot be accused of giving you misinformation. 17 nursery schools, 25 primary schools, 26 secondary schools. A total of 68 schools were constructed in a period of 10 years when the budget was extremely small, with every sector demanding its share of the pie. We'll try to get that table up there for you so that you can see the names of those schools and the locations. Just bear with us for a brief moment while we put that up on the screen. Between 1970 and 1979, these 68 schools were put in place. Corriverton, Melanie Damishana, Pearl, Lethem, Charity, Dartmouth, Better Hope, Jackalope, Pomeroon, Wauna, Northwest, Awarwa now in the Rupununi, Aishalton in the Rupununi, Kato in Region 8. Look, the list is there. Morawana, Kamarang, Madhya, Mokomoko, those are the nursery schools. The primary schools are also listed there. There's Mabura, Lilydale, Mora, Chinowing, Karabiru, Walaba, Awarano, Carisparu, Komu, Silver Hill, 1 Miles, Amelia Ward. Look, the list is there. This is what the People's National Congress built and never shouted about, because it was a normal developmental trajectory that the country was on, shifting from plantation to nation and having education as a top priority on that developmental agenda. So when you hear about a school being built, remember Kato School that the PPP constructed, that costed more than $1 billion and had to be literally reconstructed by the APNU AFC. Think about Bamia School being touted as some state-of-the-art school, can't be completed after so many years of having been awarded. And this one in Hosororo, just examples in a region where there is no completed project that the government can point to in 5 years. So says Sherrod Duncan, who has done the research. Let's move on. The National Two-Shows Council Conference. And I pause between the council and the conference. And I want to make this point, that whilst everyone in the state media who has written about this or reported on this conference praise the conference and its outcome, there are a few observations that I'd like to make. And to help me make those observations, I'm going to ask my technical operator to assist me with putting up these images, which I am only now sharing with him, unfortunately. Um, that's the South Rupununi District Council speaking there. Um, the South Rupununi District Council has made some observations, and so too has what is styled the Upper Mazruni District Council, which I'm also going to share with you if I can. There are criticisms here regarding exclusion of support personnel. You know, when the APNU AFC was in government, the Tushau could walk with his treasurer and his secretary, or her treasurer and secretary, to assist in providing technical information and other forms of support to the Tushaus who are making contributions to the floor. You can see there were major concerns. The South Rupununi District Council made some very strong observations regarding exclusion of support personnel, agenda circulation. The agenda was only circulated immediately before the commencement. And it denied to shows the ability to engage their communities. Now, if you have a draft agenda as a village leader, you can go to a village general meeting and provide your village population with that draft agenda and seek their input. Say, look, we're talking about accountability here. What should I report to the National Tushaus Council at the conference? But no, that didn't happen. Again, under the People's Progressive Party, that didn't happen. So there was little or no meaningful representation having regard to the inability to prepare presentations that are agenda specific. And we go on. There are other issues of concern, restriction on observer entry. We know that persons were denied access. We saw on social media 2 former employees of the state media who historically covered National Tushaus conferences in the past and who themselves are indigenous Guyanese women were denied entry, among others. And there is this restriction. Another point is the restriction where Tushaus were urged not to speak on matters that were already spoken to by other Tushaus, which is absolute rubbish. We may speak on the same topic, but make different points because we come from different places, different villages, and different regions with different sets of circumstances that affect us under the same heading. So you can't expect to come Jagdeo spending 3 hours and the 2 shows get in 15 minutes. It's never going to work that way. The media access. 2 shows were not allowed to speak as they wanted to. The time limitation, resolution endorsement process, these are all things that were raised. The free, prior, and informed consent provision of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples speaks to a consultative approach. You just can't show up at a conference and sign on to a resolution. It is not in keeping with the practice, with the norms, with the international recognized standards. And when you have also only state media covering and persons from independent media being denied for some reason or the other. This is not what obtains the National Tushos Council. This is their conference. This is not the People's Progressive Party's conference, although they hijacked it and made it exactly that. This is not Pauline Sukai's conference, although she superintended the denial of independent media, the denial of NGOs. She presided over the denial of access to the conference by these people. On a personal note, with the experience I had on the last occasion and the information I received regarding the treatment that they had planned for me should I show up, I decided to disappoint them. The last time when they put me out of the place, when I was leaving, 2 vehicles carrying police officers were coming, and as I understand it, were coming for me. And they planned it a little bit tighter this time. So I believe disappointing them would have been the thing to do. Well, let's move on to the Upper Mazruni District Council's observations and calls to action as well. And to make the point, ladies and gentlemen, that the South Rupununi District Council document that you're looking at, the South Rupununi District Council speaks for 42 indigenous villages and communities in the Rupununi. 42. So when the government officials are shouting out here about a successfully conducted and concluded National Tushos Conference, those who attended the conference are saying words to the contrary. I'm not sure how many are represented or are members of the Upper Mazruni District Council, which, by the way, I need to point out is not a legal entity yet. They are functioning as the Upper Mazruni District Council at the moment, but the People's Progressive Party government, particularly and specifically Pauline Sukai, Minister of Marine Affairs, continues to deny them the right to be recognized as a district council. And may I point out that the district council is provided for in the Amerindian Act. It requires an order from the minister to be made and gazetted. Pauline Sukai stoutly refuses to recognize the Upper Mazruni District Council and the Moruka District Council because she and her political handlers are afraid of a united indigenous people's movement. And this is why they do not engage these groups. They opt instead to have what they refer to as regional Tushos conferences, which are not provided for in law. The People's Progressive Party has turned the National Tushos Council into a political platform, and it cannot be denied. This fact cannot be denied. The chairman of the National Tushos Council is a political activist for the People's Progressive Party. He was there before as the National Tushos Council's chairman and accompanied the same minister, but he accompanied the Minister of Amerindian Affairs to the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues and lied. On the question of lands, he made an open statement to that forum that there were no contentious land issues in this country when he knew for a fact as chairman of the National Tushaus Council at that time as well, that there was the Upper Mazroni land case before the court, and it was in fact before the court for several years even then. And the vice chairman or the deputy chairman of the National Tushaus Council is a lady who is also a known activist of the People's Progressive Party in the Essequibo Coast. In fact, after the regional chairman, she is the second ranking PPP council activist in Region 2. And together they have worked with the People's Progressive Party to transform the National Tushaus Council into a political arm of the People's Progressive Party, denying people the right to speak, denying people equal speaking time, and denying access to independent media and non-governmental representation. When the National Tushaus Council had its conference during the term in government of the AP and UAFC, every member of the parliamentary opposition was invited to the opening ceremony. Members of the People's Progressive Party visited at liberty anytime, any session of the National Tushaus Council Conference, unimpeded, unhindered. But they believe that in government, they must herd people, control them, direct them, deny them access to others. And then the chairman of the National Tushaus Council gets up, attacks the free media, attacks mourners, family members, and supporters of the late Adriana Young for demonstrating against the People's Progressive Party government as they sought justice for a child who died under mysterious circumstances and whose body magically appeared in a pool at a hotel on the east bank of Essequibo. Attack them. So focused was Derek John on attacking people, the Alliance for Change, the NGO, APA, the free media, the relatives and friends and supporters of late Adriana Young, that he refused to recall and pay tribute to a Tushaw who was murdered in a hotel in Georgetown while he was on official village business. No moment of silence, no recall. Refused to recognize and pay tribute on the anniversary date to the fire victims in Madhya, 20 young indigenous souls. No motion for that, no recognition for that, no respect for that, no recall that the People's National Congress reform and the parliamentary opposition called for the erection of a monument in commemoration of the lives of those young people tragically lost in a fire while they were locked up in a building with no hope of escape. He couldn't remember that. Derek John could not recall that. He could not recall the 3 children who died in a similar fire at Ramadan, even before the Madhya fire struck. But he was all in praise for the People's Progressive Party, urging Tushaws to continue to support. Support what? support the disrespect for indigenous peoples across this country? The National Tushos Council is made up of elected Tushos of every village in this country. Like the South Rupununi District Council, like the Upper Mazruni District Council, all other Tushos need to stand up and speak out against People's Progressive Party's political handling of what should be an independent conference. Why aren't Tushos allowed time to meet, to deliberate on matters that affect them among themselves? Why? As soon as the session ends, it's straight to some prime minister or somebody's thing. Allow the people some space. They're human beings. Allow them to sit among themselves, among their own compatriots, among their colleague leaders, and have conversation, exchange views about how they can develop their own villages, share success stories one village to another, share success stories, villages of one region with villages of another region. This nonsense must stop, and Tushos need to stand up and speak out. The Amerindian Act clearly says that any Amerindian citizen of this country is entitled to attend the National Tushos Council Conference. Any Amerindian. What is this nonsense about having to get a pass to enter the premises? If the venue is too small, find a bigger one. Don't tell me that you're going to rebuild Durban Park because the people of South Georgetown and the people of Georgetown and Region 4 generally condemn you for leaving it to languish and leaving it to ruin. And you hoping to be able to get their vote, so you promise them that you will fix it in your next term. Which next term? Next 20 years? It is the same way you promised the indigenous peoples faithfully that you're going to amend the Amerindian Act, a process started by the AP and UAFC in its term in government between 2015 and 2020. You abandon it. The People's Progressive Party abandoned it, yet promised to do it. And as we approach elections 2025, you come out with fresh promises to do the same. If the venue is too small and you can't accommodate people who have interest in attending and listening to the proceedings in the National Tushos Council Conference, find a bigger venue. Find a bigger venue. Or publicly announce that you wouldn't be accommodating people. Don't have people go there knowing that statutory provisions are made for them to attend, and then you tell them they can't. And in my case, you put a permanent secretary to assault me. Last time there was a conference. Pauline Sukai, you need to resign. The PPP needs to pull its hand away from the indigenous peoples, and the same self-determination that Derek John speaks about, that only he enjoys, because clearly the others don't. The People's Progressive Party must allow indigenous peoples to enjoy the right to self-determination. The People's Progressive Party must respect the indigenous people's right to free, prior, and informed consent. This conference, this National Tushos Council conference just concluded, did not benefit indigenous peoples. It benefited the People's Progressive Party that used it as a platform to campaign. You had a sitting president stand up there and behave as though the PPP was in its first term in government, comparing APNU AFC performance in 2015 to 2020 with the PPP's performance in 2020 to now. Deliberately attempting to avoid reference to the massive failings, the massive failure of the People's Progressive Party in its 23 years in government. Dates are convenient to these people. Somebody got up the other day and said, one of the ministers, I don't even remember who it is, that land titling, legal land titling was the term they used, started in 1992. In fact, that the Amerindian Act of 2006 brought land titling into being. Yeah, that's what he said. The Amerindian Act of 2006. I must research it and come back. When the same Amerindian Act, the one that was repealed, the Act of 1951, was amended in 1976 and 1991, giving legal ownership by way of title to more than 90 indigenous villages across this country. I challenge the People's Progressive Party again. I challenge the People's Progressive Party again to do a schedule of originally issued titles or titles that were originally issued to indigenous villages for lands. On the one hand, put lands that were originally titled by the People's National Congress. And on the other hand, put lands that were titled by the People's Progressive Party. And let's have a conversation. And when you put the list, put the size of the land, the area of the land next to each entry on that list. And then the world will see that the People's National Congress in government did more for indigenous land rights and titling than the People's Progressive Party can ever dream of. I challenge the People's Progressive Party. This is my second challenge. Don't let's look at certificates of title, because they replace the original, or they are there instead of the originally issued titles. Do a schedule of lands when they were originally titled by the People's National Congress, and do another schedule of lands originally titled by the People's Progressive Party, and let's have a conversation. That should have been on the agenda for the NTC conference. Not propaganda, lies, and mischief. Facts. That's what we need to discuss. Let's move off of that topic. And let's talk a little bit about our independence. Let's talk a little bit about our independence. And let's talk a little bit about the People's Progressive Party's handling of this territorial controversy. Let's listen to a head of government as he speaks on the subject of nationhood.
Election is now over. A hard and at times bitter campaign has come to an end. On the results, the People's National Congress in the interests of peace and stability in Guyana, has agreed with the support of the United Force to form the government. One of the more serious tasks facing us at this moment is the attainment of independence at the earliest point of time. One of the disturbing features of the election, which we have noted, is the apparent cleavage existing in our society, brought about by colonialism and 7 years of mismanagement and misrule. It has come to our knowledge that despite the years of disaster suffered by the people of this country, a large section of the electorate was persuaded against its best interests to vote for the party formerly in power as a result of the dishonest and opportunist propaganda that, unless that party was returned to power, those people would suffer. The new government, headed by me, intends to show by its actions in the immediate future, and indeed throughout its term of office, that this is not true. The problem of racial cleavage, racial antagonism, and distrust, which the last government allowed to develop during its term of office, is still with us. But our government recognizes this as a challenge which it intends to accept and which it is determined to overcome. My government considers that it is a matter of the greatest importance and the utmost urgency that an atmosphere of relaxation be established immediately. The reduction of tension, which is already apparent and which will become more pronounced with every passing day, when it is realized that not only are we intent on being fair and just, but also that we have at our disposal the means to carry out our intention, is merely the first fruits of our attainment of office. Enemies of this country would like to see racial division and antagonism continue. They will not have that satisfaction. The government recognizes that its duty is to rule in the interests of all the people of this country. It will dispel the fears of the apprehensive and confound the hopes of those who seek the destruction of this country. To be specific, this government holds that all the people of this country are equally important, whether they belong to a large group or to a small group. To us, the Amerindians are important. To us, the Chinese are important. To us, the Portuguese are important. To us, the Europeans are important. To us, the mixed races are important. To us, the Africans are important. To us, the Indians are important. In short, all Guyanese are important and valued members of our community, and we cherish them and consider that as a government, it is our duty.
All Guyanese are important. This message from the founder leader of the People's National Congress and Guyana's first Prime Minister, who led us to independence, a statesman, one who understands or who understood what confronted us as we transition, as Dr. Hines put it, from plantation to nation. 5 months after Guyana became an independent nation, 5 months, in or around October 1966, Venezuela sent its troops and they began to occupy Ankoko Island. Ankoko is an island divided into two parts. Guyana owning the eastern half and Venezuela the western half, split down the middle. And here is how Mr. Burnham addressed this issue. He engaged the opposition leader and he engaged the nation, updating us on the developments on the frontier. Let's listen to a head of government, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, treating with Venezuela's intrusion into Guyana's territory.
At one point of Guyana's western border with Venezuela, the Renamo River flows into the Cuyuni River, and there is an island at this junction called Ankoko Island of about 2 to 3 square miles. According to the map in existence since 1904, the border runs roughly through the center of Ankoko Island from north to south, so that the western part of the island is Venezuelan and the eastern Guyanese. For some time, in fact during last month, a number of Venezuelans were crossing onto the Guyanese side and have since then been carrying out certain works on our territory. The report of this came to the notice of the government a few days ago only, and an inspection party consisting of senior officials and 2 senior police officers visited the island the day before yesterday, Wednesday the 12th of October. This party verified and confirmed the earlier report received through unofficial channels. In the opinion of the government, this intrusion by Venezuelans constitutes a breach of the Geneva Agreement entered into between the governments of the United Kingdom and Venezuela on the 17th of February 1966, to which agreement the government of Guyana is now a party. And today I have sent a cable to Dr. Iribarren Borges, the Foreign Minister of Venezuela, strongly protesting the intrusion of Venezuelan personnel onto Guyanese territory and asking that immediate steps be taken by the government of Venezuela to ensure the immediate withdrawal of all such personnel. I have this morning informed the leader of the opposition of the situation and held discussions with him. Meanwhile, I await a reply from the Venezuelan government. I consider it my duty to inform the nation of this latest development and to assure you that every step is being taken to retain our territorial sovereignty by peaceful means. Your government proposes to abide by the terms of the Geneva Agreement and is hopeful that the government of Venezuela will do likewise. You are asked to remain calm and to await further information. Long live Guyana.
Prime Minister Burnham identified the problem. He took you to the root of the problem. Geneva Agreement was signed in February of 1966. And by October 12, 1966, the Venezuelans had breached it. As we know, every agreement entered into with Venezuela has been breached by Venezuela. This is a fact. The records reflect. The records reflect this as a fact. Having identified the problem and pointing us to the source of the problem, Prime Minister Burnham tells us what he did about the problem. He engaged the leader of the opposition. He had conversations with him. He notified whomever had to be notified, communicated internationally. He contacted the government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. He took action. He reported to the nation. And he says to the nation that he's awaiting a response from the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. The stately thing to do, the responsible thing to do. Mr. Burnham's actions were stately and got the attention of the entire world, the diplomatic community represented in Guyana, and all international agencies and all countries across the world. The diplomatic language, the presentation, the finesse, Mr. Burnham was a work of class. I was embarrassed last night as a citizen of this country, listening to the head of government, who is also the head of state, address this issue. I am still hanging my head in shame. You tell me in the comments what you think of the executive president of Guyana as we listen to how he performs duties of state.
Join collectively with a unified heart that beat as one. The Guyanese heart tonight that beat as one. Guyana heart is beating with Essequibo, and Essequibo is all of Guyana, and Guyana heart is going to beat with every single square inch of our country, and every single citizen will stand up and be counted.
Ladies and gentlemen, that performance there came from the holder of the highest office in the land, this green land of Guyana. I did say to you that Mr. Burnham identified the problem and told us what he did about it as a nation. What we just saw a moment ago seemed to be the problem in the context of what's happening today. I want you to listen to this gentleman again. I'd like you to listen to him again.
Join collectively with a unified heart that beat as one. The Guyanese heart tonight that beat as one. Guyana heart is beating with Essequibo, and Essequibo is all of Guyana, and Guyana heart is going to beat with every single square inch of our country, and every single citizen will stand up and be counted.
Guyana heart will be beating with every square inch. Guyana heart will be beating with every square inch. Ladies and gentlemen, I am ashamed. But you know what? Mr. Aubrey Norton, in one sentence, Mr. Aubrey Norton, leader of the parliamentary opposition and leader of the People's National Congress Reform, even before Mr. Ali spoke last evening, Mr. Aubrey Norton had already spoken on this matter and prepared us for what was to come. He pointed out the problem.
The greatest enemy this country has is the government of Guyana.
And I believe for emphasis, we should just listen to that sentence at least twice.
The greatest enemy this country has is the government of Guyana. The greatest enemy this country has is the government of Guyana.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know that I may be labeled unpatriotic for what I just said and for the footage, the pieces of footage that I just shared with you. But as a citizen of this country, I am confident that we have among us in this country leaders capable of treating with issues as important as our national sovereignty and territorial integrity in a much more responsible, stately, and diplomatic manner. I firmly believe, as a citizen of this country, as an indigenous Guyanese born near to the border with Venezuela, that there are among us leaders with the finesse, with the class, with the intellect, and with the capacity to lead on these issues. And the elections of 2025, whenever they come, must see us as a nation identifying such a leader and electing such a leader to be president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, this green land of Guyana, so that we can protect, preserve, and develop all of Guyana, particularly the county of Essequibo. I am not happy with the way the government of this country is treating with our territorial integrity, with our national sovereignty. I am not happy with the way this current regime is treating with our economy, is treating our minorities, is administering justice. I am not happy with the way they are treating the working class in this country. I am not happy with the way they're managing the health sector. I am not happy with the way they're managing education sector, the agricultural sector, the security sector. I am not happy with the way this government is managing the affairs of our country. The only thing that this government is exceedingly good at is corruption. And that is going to destroy our country even faster than anything else that's happening around us. I want to give you excerpts from Mr. Norton's presentation on a motion in the National Assembly on the 23rd of May, a motion treating with our territorial integrity and our national sovereignty, a motion that the People's Progressive Party decided it was going to draft by itself, a motion, the drafting of which was done to the exclusion of the parliamentary opposition, the exclusion of civil society, and in that regard, the exclusion of persons who are more knowledgeable, more capable, more competent, and more versed in this particular matter of the controversy between Guyana and Venezuela than any 10 people in the People's Progressive Party put together. The People's Progressive Party decided to go it alone and ended up with a very, very weak motion. We warned here on Nation Watch last Sunday. Ambassador Austin and I had a conversation during which he spoke to the motion, I beg your pardon, in a very, what should I say? We didn't explore it deeply. Took a very peripheral view of things and made some general statements. The People's Progressive Party did not take heed, went ahead with a motion that makes absolutely no sense in the circumstances when it comes to defining the problem, identifying actions already taken, identifying actions to be taken, and how this issue will be handled going forward. some of the whereas clauses were misrepresented, and the resolve clauses were extremely weak. But let's listen to some of what Mr. Norton had to say on the floor of the National Assembly on the 23rd with respect to this motion.
Mr. Speaker, let us recall that we call for the establishment of a commission on the territorial controversy, and that commission must involve a wide cross-section of stakeholders. Let me remind this august body, the government rejected the idea. They averred the view that the Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Affairs can serve the same purpose. I hope you remember that. In response to the government's position, we stated at the time that the committee was not meeting. The government promised that it will meet to discuss foreign policy issues, inclusive of the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy. It met once and never again. In our second meeting with His Excellency the President, the issue of the non-functioning of the committee and the question of rotating the chairmanship was discussed in the presence of the foreign minister. The foreign minister committed to convene a meeting and hand over the chairmanship to the opposition. Until now, this has not happened. The government failed to honor its obligation and manifested the usual incompetence and arrogance. How do you expect to obtain our cooperation when you fail to honor your word? How do you expect to obtain cooperation when something as simple as convening a meeting to hand over the chairmanship you cannot do?
There's more from Mr. Aubrey Norton on the floor of the National Assembly that you need to hear. We will get you another clip, and we will ask you to visit the People's National Congress Reform Facebook page or APNU Guyana YouTube channel to listen to Mr. Norton's presentation in full. Mr. Norton stands out as a leader in this country, particularly as it relates to the common touch, the touch with the ordinary citizens of this country, the working class. Mr. Norton stands out when it comes to knowledge of this particular issue, the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy, having worked in the Foreign Service himself and having had reason to study this issue. And the president of this country, who knows very little about very little, decided that he was going to go ahead with this motion to the exclusion of the parliamentary opposition. Let's take another clip from Mr. Norton's presentation.
And when you want to doubt it's a police state, turn and look at the case of Adriana Young, in which the police didn't operate independently and investigate. More than a week passed and they hadn't taken one statement. And it's a clear case of protecting the elite. Whether you like it or not, the cover-up is now uncovered. Mr. Speaker, all of us know that justice eludes little Adriana Young and the other victims like her because we live in a police state.
Yes. We live in a police state. The trouble is that even though we live in a police state, we seem to be lagging behind when it comes to defense of our territory. And I don't mean military defense of our territory. It's no secret that the Venezuelan military is extremely large, maybe nearly as large as Guyana's population, if taken all together. And it is no secret that the Guyana military is not as strong and not as well equipped as the Venezuelan military. Guyana's position has always been diplomacy as its first line of defense. But is that still the way we operate? Are we as a nation capitalizing on the diplomatic front as well as or as much as we are required to, that we need to? Are we utilizing our seat on the United Nations Security Council? The motion omits the African Union as a group or as a list of countries to which it should be disseminated. Why is the People's Progressive Party avoiding countries of the African continent as we seek to reach out for international support in this time of need? Why? Why would the People's Progressive Party deliberately omit Africa from its list of organizations, countries, and so on that we're sending this motion to? Something is amiss. We're not getting it right. As a citizen, I'm unhappy with the way things are, and I urge the government to listen to Mr. Norton's presentation in the National Assembly and take heed. Go back to the records of your last engagement with Mr. Aubrey Norton. Look at the recommendations that were tabled that you agreed to implement and you didn't, and start working on those now. We will leave you on Nation Watch today with a little bit of Mr. Norton's presentation, and to remind you that as we approach elections 2025, the only hope for our country is a change of government. And as Mr. Norton himself has said on several occasions, and as many of us have echoed within recent times, for Guyana to grow, the PPP must go. Until we meet again next Sunday, God bless.
Mr. Speaker, I would recommend to the government that they withdraw this motion and let us work together on a joint motion. Mr. Speaker, we would not have been at this point. We would not have been at this point if the government had taken the approach we took over the years of engaging the opposition and let us agree on a joint statement. I can say this to you. I don't want you to agree. Good. So if you don't want to agree, why you want we support? If you don't want us to be involved, why you want our support? And so, Mr. Speaker, I close by making a few comments. We wish to express our appreciation and gratitude to all those countries and organizations that have expressed support for our cause and are contributing to the protection of our sovereignty and territorial integrity. Mr. Speaker, all Guyanese know, and we are well aware, that Essequibo belongs to us, and we will do everything to protect our sovereignty and territorial integrity. However, we cannot overlook the fact that we live in a police state. We cannot overlook the fact that the state has been criminalized. We cannot overlook the incompetence of this government, its squandering of our resources, the lack of a plan to confront Venezuelan aggression, and their unbridled penchant for domination and control. We cannot support a motion that is weak and only resolves to circulate documents and fails to do anything that is action-oriented and give hope that we will treat Venezuela as an adversary who wants our territory and ensure Venezuela is kept at bay. We cannot support this innocuous motion in its present form. Mr. Speaker, we urge you to come back to the table and let us work on a motion that all Guyanese will be happy with. It is for that reason, this is the farthest we will go in this presentation. Thank you.